There's a sock still in the dryer. Just one. Blue with tiny pineapples. It's been spinning alone for 20 minutes. The reason I'm mentioning that sock is because I've been sitting on the laundry room floor for those 20 minutes. Not moving. Not thinking clearly. Just staring at it thumping against the metal drum like it's the only heartbeat left in the house. I didn't plan any of this. I wasn't looking for proof. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even suspicious. I was fixing the damn dryer. That's it. There's a hatch in the wall behind the dryer, goofy old house design, and when I pulled it open to check the vent, I heard voices. Not imaginary ones. Real, muffled voices coming from the hallway. My hallway. And hers. I recognized her laugh first. That specific high-pitched giggle she always reserved for compliments. It used to be mine. And then I heard him. Not a name I knew, not a voice I'd ever heard in my home before, but his words were carved sharp enough to slice air. He still pays everything? Seriously. He's soft. He always was. That's why it works. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. You're going to tell him, right? Eventually. Maybe after Cabo. I want the trip first. She laughed again. They were standing just feet from me by the hallway mirror, oblivious. I could see their shadows through the crack under the door. I don't know what broke first, the dryer belt or me. I didn't barge out. I didn't scream or demand answers. I waited. Like always. And when they left together without even checking to see if I was home, I knew what I had to do. No confrontation. No argument. Just a note. She always thought I was too gentle to leave. Too patient. Too loyal. Too spineless to ever walk out. That's what makes this perfect. I'm still sitting here in the laundry room writing the words on the back of an old electric bill with a stub of a pencil she left in her sewing drawer. I'm leaving it right where her makeup mirror sits. She'll see it. Oh, she'll see it. You forgot one thing. I was always quiet, not blind. Enjoy the debts. They're all yours now. There's still a sock in the dryer. But the house is quiet again. And I've already locked the door behind me. What I didn't expect, what I absolutely wasn't ready for, was what I'd discover at the bank 2 hours later. I thought betrayal ended in a bedroom. Turns out mine started in a joint account. I wasn't planning to go to the bank. Honestly, I had no plans at all. When I walked out of the house that morning, I didn't have a destination, just a numb sense of movement, like if I kept walking fast enough, maybe I could outrun the echo of their voices in my hallway. I thought I might just drive for a while. Pull off somewhere quiet. Sleep in my car if I had to. But when I stopped to fill up the tank, my card declined. That's when the second unraveling began. I stared at the gas pump like it had insulted me. Tried again. Same result. Declined. I forced a half smile at the clerk inside and used my backup card, the one I never touch. It worked, but something felt wrong. Something was off. There was a lump growing in my throat. Not panic. Not yet. More like dread that hadn't found its full shape. I headed straight to the bank. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just confused. But the moment I stepped up to the counter and gave the teller, a younger guy named Liam who always recognized me, my account details, I knew something was seriously wrong. His face shifted from polite to tight-lipped in seconds. His eyes scanned the screen. Then they darted to me. Then back to the screen. And then he asked, do you want to speak with someone privately? I felt my stomach drop, but I nodded. They took me into one of those little glass-walled offices. Everything about it screamed transparency, and yet I had never felt more shut out in my life. A manager came in. Older. Calm voice. Paper folder. Mr. Densley, I just want to confirm a few recent transfers from your joint account with Ms. Corinne Densley. I froze. She transferred out $38,000 last week to an external account, another $12,400 2 days ago, and this morning, well, roughly 40 minutes ago, she closed the joint savings entirely. That balance was $84,212.19. Does that sound correct to you? I didn't even hear the end of the sentence. The numbers hit me like bricks. Those were her savings. Emergency fund. My parents' inheritance money. Gone. She what? I managed barely. She authorized the closure herself, sir. All documentation is here. He flipped the folder toward me, showing me her signature. Neat, deliberate loops. Same way she used to sign birthday cards. I didn't agree to that. Isn't this a joint account? Yes, but under this agreement, either party has the authority to it. I stopped listening again. Not because I didn't want to hear it, but because I suddenly remembered something she'd said just a few days ago, casually while brushing her hair. You know, if I ever disappear, I'd probably end up somewhere warm with fresh drinks and no cell signal. I had laughed. She wasn't joking. I left the bank in a haze. I couldn't even feel the ground beneath my shoes. I got into the car, hands trembling, and stared at the empty passenger seat. And that's when I noticed something that nearly made me scream. The glove compartment was open. My spare passport, the one I'd renewed but never used, was gone. So was the envelope of cash I kept hidden beneath the floor mat. She knew about it. She used to tease me for being paranoid. But she knew. She'd been planning this. Not just cheating. Not just staying out. She was leaving me to crash and burn. And she took everything. I should have been furious. I should have been calling lawyers. Or screaming. Or drinking. But I didn't do any of that. I just drove. To one last place. The one place she thought I'd never go. The man she was with, the one I heard laughing with her in my hallway, I didn't recognize his voice at the time. But there's only one person who ever told her about that cash under the floor mat. My own brother. And now I had to find out how deep this betrayal really went. I didn't drive fast. I didn't blast music. I didn't even think clearly. The roads bled together, just long gray ribbons between betrayals. I passed signs, buildings, billboards I couldn't read because my brain was locked on one image, my brother's face the last time he was in our house. It had been 2 months earlier, the night of Curran's birthday. I had made dinner, spent hours on it. I'm not much of a cook, but I tried a chicken in white wine sauce, a sad little cake I picked up from the grocery store. And she barely touched any of it. She'd been distant that whole evening, barely spoke to me, barely even smiled when I gave her the necklace. But she lit up when Arlen walked in. My older brother. The golden one. The charming one. The one who always seemed to get by without trying, who could turn any room in his favor with a half smile and a well-timed joke. Corinne always said they got along too well, but I used to think that was a good thing. I thought she was just grateful to be accepted into the family. That night, she hugged him too long. He brought her flowers, roses. I should have noticed. Who brings their brother's wife roses? I remember standing at the sink washing dishes while they laughed in the living room, thinking maybe they were just reminiscing about old stories. But now in hindsight, I can still hear the sharpness in her giggle. The way it used to sound only when she was buzzed and flirting. I remember thinking how far away I felt in my own home, in the kitchen I paid for, staring at a plate I was drying while my wife whispered something that made my brother smirk. And now, I couldn't ignore the voice I heard outside the laundry room door. It was him. It had to be. There was a rhythm to his speech that was unmistakable once I let myself believe it. I pulled into the old strip of condos he rented. Not much of a place, cheap siding, cramped parking. He always said he liked to live light. I used to envy that. Now it just seemed cowardly. I didn't call ahead. Didn't knock. His door was unlocked. I stepped inside and immediately I knew. I didn't even need to say a word. Her scarf was draped over the back of his couch. Her perfume was hanging in the air like invisible fog. Her shoes, those red ones she never wore for me, were kicked off by the door. Lowell, he said, stepping into the room with that same lazy smirk he always wore when he thought he had control. Didn't expect you. Where is she? He didn't even pretend. He didn't say who or act surprised. He just gave the slow shrug and said, she's not here now if that's what you're asking. I know, I said, my voice cracking before I could stop it. She emptied the account. Took the emergency fund. She took my passport, Arlen. She knew where I kept it. He didn't look sorry. Not even a little. She's not your property, man. That's when I felt it, the boiling edge of something I had never let myself feel around him. Rage. I wanted to hit him, scream at him, demand something. But all I did was ask the question that burned a hole in my chest. How long? He crossed his arms. That night? Her birthday. That was the first time. I turned away. But don't pretend you didn't see it coming, he added, casually, like it was a favor he was doing me. You let her drift. You got boring. You made her feel invisible. I spun back around and looked him in the eyes. I trusted you. She chose me, man. Get over it. He said it like it was a simple truth. Like betrayal wasn't supposed to mean anything when it came with wine and shared laughter and the promise of a vacation. I didn't yell. I didn't throw punches. I walked past him to the couch, picked up the scarf, and held it for a moment. Then I dropped it on the floor. Tell her I left a note, I said. She'll know what it means. He didn't respond. I walked out. But here's the thing. What I didn't tell him, what he didn't know, was that I had already taken something from him too. Not money. Not revenge. Something worse. I didn't go far after I left Arlen's condo. Just a few blocks down, to a dusty little parking lot behind a closed-down grocery store where I used to wait in high school to pick him up after detention. That lot had seen every version of us. The brothers who used to share candy bars, who threw fists and then laughed about it, who stayed up on the roof during storms just to feel something. Now I sat in my car, hands clenched around the steering wheel, wondering how the person who used to know me better than anyone else could steal my wife and watch me bleed without blinking. But like I said, I didn't walk into that apartment empty-handed. What Arlen didn't know, what Corinne didn't know either, is that the day before her birthday I had found something. Not because I was snooping. I wasn't looking for evidence. I was looking for my earbuds in the office drawer. And instead I found a small, rose gold USB stick tucked between old receipts and loose change. I remember holding it up to the light, thinking it was strange. Corinne never used thumb drives. Everything she did was in the cloud, and she always mocked me for backing things up the old-fashioned way. So I plugged it in. First, I thought it was empty. Then I noticed the folder. No name, just a string of random numbers. Inside, videos. I didn't open them right away. Something told me they weren't for me. But that night, while she was asleep in the other room, back turned as usual, I sat in the kitchen with headphones on and clicked. They weren't just cheating videos. No, that would have been disgusting but expected at this point. What I saw was worse. Recordings of her sitting on our bed, talking to the camera, like she was giving updates to someone, telling them what I'd said that day, how I'd reacted when she told me she was just tired, how easily I gave in again and again. She was reporting on me, mocking me, calling me predictable, soft. "He still thinks I'm too stressed for intimacy," she said in one. "Honestly, it's laughable how little he demands. He still brings me tea every night." I watched 6 of them. Each one chipped away at something in me I didn't know could break. So I copied the entire drive to my laptop. I didn't say a word. Not yet. I needed more. A few days later, when she left for a weekend spa trip with her friend Lacey, I checked the iPad she always left behind. She thought she had logged out of everything. She hadn't. There it was, her alternate email. One I'd never seen before. Linked to dozens of Uber receipts, Airbnb confirmations, even a wire transfer log for a deposit on a villa in Baja California. A villa she had booked with his name on the guest list. Arlen's. So no, I didn't go to that apartment without something. I left a tiny slip of paper in the pocket of his leather jacket, the one he always wore when he wanted to look effortlessly cool. On it, I wrote, "Nice try. You forgot who taught you passwords." Because, you see, I wasn't the idiot they thought I was. Not anymore. As they schemed, I'd been moving quietly, gathering every screenshot, every video file, every trace of their pathetic plan. I had already sent copies to a friend of mine who worked in compliance for a large real estate firm. Someone who'd been cheated on himself once. He understood what I was doing wasn't about revenge. It was about recording the truth before it disappeared. And that truth was about to ruin more than just their beach getaway. But before I dropped the hammer, I needed to see one more person. Someone who would confirm the final piece of this whole miserable puzzle. A woman who knew Corinne in a way I didn't, who had always kept her distance from me, and now I understood why. Lacey, her best friend. Because there was one photo buried in that email history that didn't make sense. A grainy, accidental selfie taken in a mirror behind a dinner table. Arlen was in it. Corinne was in it. But Lacey was there too. And she wasn't sitting on the opposite side of the table like a third wheel. She was between them, laughing. I hadn't spoken to Lacey in months. Not directly, anyway. She and Corinne were inseparable for years, but I always had this vague discomfort around her. Like I was being watched or measured. Lacey never really warmed to me. She'd smile, make the occasional sarcastic jab, then float back into her perfect posture and glassy charm. I used to chalk it up to personality. But now, after everything I'd seen, after the videos, the secret emails, the dinner photo, I realized Lacey had been more than a bystander. She was part of it. I just didn't know how deep. I found her easily. Corinne had mentioned once that Lacey worked out at a boutique yoga studio across town. I parked 2 blocks away and waited across the street with my hood up and coffee in hand, like some cliché of a broken man looking for answers. At 11:14 a.m., Lacey strutted out with her mat slung over her shoulder, all sleek leggings and ponytail, tapping away on her phone without a care in the world. I followed her down the sidewalk and called her name softly, didn't want to startle her. But when she turned and saw me, something flashed across her face that made my blood chill. It wasn't guilt. It was annoyance. "Lowell," she said flatly, eyes flicking over me. "Didn't expect to see you out in daylight." "I have questions," I said. My voice cracked. I hated that. I hated how weak I sounded. She looked around, sighed, and gestured to a cafe nearby. 5 minutes. Then I go. I've got a wax at noon. We sat near the window. She didn't ask what I wanted. She didn't offer pleasantries. Just stared like I was wasting her time. "I know about the villa," I began. "I know about the videos. And the money." She didn't flinch. "I also know you were at dinner with them." She tilted her head. "So? You were helping them. Or covering for them. Or something." Why? Why would you, She leaned forward suddenly, her voice low and sharp like a knife just grazing skin. "You want answers? Fine. You were never supposed to be part of the picture, Lowell. Corinne married you because she was scared to be alone. You were safe. Predictable. You worshipped her. I loved her." "Yeah," she laughed coldly. "Exactly." I couldn't speak. I just stared. She continued. "Arlen was always the one she wanted. But he was never available. Never serious. Until this year. Until he got dumped. Corinne was finally done pretending. And I just didn't stop her. Why would I?" She sipped her latte. "I'm bothered. Because I thought you were her friend." "I am," she said, shrugging. "But friends don't stop each other from being happy. They help." "Happy." That word burned. "You helped her steal everything from me," I whispered. "No," Lacey said, standing. "She just took back what she never really gave you." I don't know how long I sat there after she walked out. It could have been 5 minutes. Could have been an hour. The buzz of the cafe faded into a dull roar behind my thoughts. That moment didn't just break something in me, it rewired it. The woman I married had built a lie so complete, so intentional that even the people closest to her had started treating me like a prop. And Lacey's indifference? That wasn't just cruelty. That was confidence. She knew something I didn't. So I did the only thing I could think of. I dug deeper. I opened the laptop again that night and scanned Corinne's hidden files. One folder caught my eye, not labeled like the others. Just a series of numbers. I hadn't seen it before. Inside, PDFs, legal documents. Notes from a real estate attorney. Emails about selling our home. The contract had a date. Tomorrow. She had planned to sell the house without telling me because in her fantasy ending I was already gone. But I wasn't. Not yet. And now I had a reason to stay. Not to save anything. Not to fix it. But to interfere. What I did next made sure she'd never forget me. And it started with a little message to the buyer's agent. One sentence. "This property is under legal dispute due to marital fraud. Pull out now or you'll be part of it." The realtor called me back 20 minutes after I sent the message. Her tone changed fast, shaky, clipped, trying to stay professional but clearly panicked. I told her I was Lowell Densley, the legal co-owner of the property she was under contract to sell, and I asked her politely if she was aware the listing was the product of marital fraud. She said she wasn't. I could almost hear her chair creak as she leaned away from her desk. She asked for proof. I gave her the file name and access to the documents. Corinne had, in her arrogance, left PDFs stored on our shared cloud folder, a copy of the deed, the fake power of attorney she claimed I'd signed, I hadn't, and the contract for sale already signed by the buyers. The agent fell silent. Then she said, "I need to speak to my legal team." And that was the moment I realized the tower she built was leaning, already swaying under the weight of its lies. I didn't stop there. I called the buyers directly. Yes, I found their number in the correspondence she carelessly stored and explained in measured, tired detail that they were about to purchase a house without a legitimate dual signature. I told them they were being drawn into a legal situation that could cost them everything. They backed out. By the time I finished the call, Corinne still hadn't contacted me. Not a text. Not a voicemail. And I understood why. She thought I was still licking my wounds in some motel with cheap sheets and a vending machine outside the door. She assumed I was broken, hiding, nursing a bruised heart with a six-pack and old sitcoms. She didn't realize I was sitting at our dining room table, sipping her favorite almond tea in the house she thought would be hers by the weekend. And then, like the universe wanted me to have one last theatrical moment before everything detonated, she walked in. Just strolled through the front door like she still lived here, wearing sunglasses, holding a smoothie, her phone glued to her hand. She stopped cold when she saw me. Our eyes met. She blinked. "You're not supposed to be here," she said flat. "Yeah," I replied, standing slowly. "I've been hearing that a lot lately." She put the smoothie down. Didn't say a word. Her fingers tightened around her phone. I know about the money, I said. I know about Arlen. About the villa. About the sale. Still, no reaction. But then I added, I know about the videos. That landed. Her face lost color. She took one step back. I didn't send them anywhere. Not yet, I said. I figured I'd let you explain first. You're invading my privacy, she snapped. Your privacy? I let out a short laugh. In the house you tried to steal? With the identity you forged? With the marriage you pretended to still be in while documenting how much you resented me to someone who apparently found it entertaining? She didn't respond, but I could see her mind racing. Calculating. Trying to find an exit. A strategy. You stole over $100,000, Corinne. Do you know what that qualifies as? Grand larceny. And fraud. On paper, this is criminal. She scoffed like it was a bluff. But her voice trembled. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. And then, because I couldn't stop myself, I said the one thing I had been holding inside like fire on the roof of my mouth. You didn't just cheat on me. You performed it. You documented it. You monetized it. And now you're shocked I finally woke up? Her voice broke. Lowell, I never meant it. You did. You meant every word. I held up a flash drive. This is everything. The videos, the emails, the transactions, the contract. I already gave a copy to someone with more legal experience than either of us. You think Arlen's going to save you? That man can't even keep a job longer than 6 months. Now she looked scared. You're not walking away clean. Not this time. I made sure of that. Her hands trembled. She reached for the smoothie. Missed. Grabbed her bag instead. She was trying to say something, I could see it building behind her eyes, but nothing came out. And then she walked out. She didn't slam the door. She didn't beg. She didn't scream or accuse me of anything. She just left. But what she didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that while she was planning a life with my brother, I had filed a formal fraud report. I had also submitted the flash drive to an investigator with the insurance company that once covered Curran's short-lived PR firm. They had a history with her. And they were very interested. What came next wasn't revenge. It was consequence. The following morning, I woke up to something I hadn't felt in weeks, clarity. It wasn't peace, not exactly. It was more like the final click of a puzzle piece you didn't know was missing. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat on the couch where she used to pretend to nap while texting Arlen under a throw blanket, the same couch she'd once curled into my side after faking tears over an argument she had secretly provoked. And now the same couch felt like mine again. Because everything had shifted. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't reacting to her. I was moving ahead of her. At 8:46 a.m., I received a call from the investigator at the insurance company. I didn't know what to expect, honestly. I assumed they might say they were reviewing my files or that they'd look into it and get back to me in a few weeks. What I didn't expect was the tone of the man's voice, urgency with a hint of grim satisfaction. Mr. Densley, I want to thank you for submitting those files, he began. We've been trying to close a loop on some irregularities related to a prior claim your wife filed when she dissolved her PR agency 3 years ago. That moment struck like a hammer. I'd forgotten all about that. At the time, Corinne claimed a break-in had destroyed critical hardware and client data, allowing her to collect over $40,000 in business interruption insurance. I remember comforting her, holding her hand, even offering to go down to the office myself to help clean up. She insisted I stay home. It's too stressful, she said. But now this investigator was telling me the drive I submitted included unintentional evidence, metadata from a backup folder where some of those allegedly lost client files still existed. Not only had the data survived, it had been uploaded under her name a full week after she received the payout. It's fraud, the investigator said plainly. And it's likely criminal. I asked what happened next. He told me that an internal review had already been underway. My submission had turned suspicion into evidence. The company was forwarding everything to the authorities. And that's when I realized Corinne wasn't just going to face a ruined marriage. She was going to face a full-scale investigation. And possibly charges. I hung up the phone and stared out the window for a long time. I expected to feel triumph. I expected a rush of satisfaction. But I didn't feel any of that. What I felt was numb. This woman, who I once considered my partner, my person, my soft place to fall, had turned out to be something else entirely. A manipulator. A thief. A con artist even. She used love like a weapon and trust like a smokescreen. And yet, I still remembered the way she used to laugh in the car with the windows down or the way her hands fit around a mug on lazy Sunday mornings. I hated that those memories still lived in me side by side with the lies. But there was no going back. Not now. Not ever. That afternoon, the final blow came, and it didn't come from me. It came from Arlen. Apparently, the pressure of watching Curran's world collapse cracked something in him. He showed up at the house while I was packing up the last of my things. Quiet knock, eyes full of something I couldn't identify at first. Guilt, maybe? Panic. She's freaking out, he said. She told me you're trying to ruin her life. Is that what she told you? That I'm ruining her life? He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his phone and showed me a message thread between them. She had messaged him 2 hours earlier. I need to know I can count on you. We leave for Baja Friday. You're still coming, right? I'll take care of Lowell. He won't fight back. Then one last message. If you bail on me now, you're dead to me. Arlen scrolled past the rest and looked up. I don't know what to do, man. You already did it, I said quietly. And then, without asking permission, he dropped the final match. She wasn't just with me. You should know that. She was seeing someone else too. A guy from her old job. I found out a week ago. I nodded slowly. He opened his mouth to say more. But I was done. I closed the door in his face. Later that evening, Corinne finally called. I didn't answer. But she left a voicemail. It wasn't an apology. Not even a plea. It was anger. Rage, even. You think you're clever, Lowell? You think ruining me is going to make you feel better? You always were weak. You'll die alone with your spreadsheets and sad little routines. Click. I stared at the phone for a long time. Then I deleted the message. She was wrong. I wouldn't die alone. But she? She had finally become what she feared most. Exposed. The last time I ever saw Corinne was from a distance, a week after the call. She was standing on the courthouse steps in a gray suit that didn't quite fit her anymore. Not physically, emotionally. She looked smaller. Not fragile. Just deflated. Like someone whose mask had finally cracked down the middle. Her eyes scanned the parking lot like she expected me to show up. I didn't. I was parked down the street just long enough to make sure the paperwork had been officially filed and that the investigation was underway. I didn't hate her. I didn't even want revenge anymore. She had already taken everything she thought she could get from me. But the truth? It took her. And I didn't need to lift a finger. After that day, I disappeared from her story the way I should have years ago, quietly, completely, and without warning. No updates. No retaliation. No invitations to come clean. I moved 3 states away. Rented a little apartment above a used bookstore owned by a retired couple who treated me like a distant nephew. I found a job doing consulting work for a nonprofit that couldn't afford to lie to people. It felt like oxygen. I started going for long walks. I found a therapist. I learned how to cook things that didn't come in a box. And I got a dog. Her name is Olive. She's missing one ear, she snores like a lawnmower, and she's the best roommate I've ever had. But here's the part one never told anyone, not even Olive. Before I left the house for good, before I turned off the lights, locked the door, and dropped the keys through the slot, I left something behind. A letter. In the top drawer of the nightstand she never used. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It just said, "You were right. I was quiet. I gave too much. I wanted us to work because I believed you were good. Turns out you were just louder than my instinct. But now I finally heard it. Goodbye." I don't know if she ever read it. I don't care. Because the truth is, I don't need her to understand. I needed me to understand. That loving someone isn't weakness. That walking away finally wasn't failure. It was freedom. Corinne thought she broke me. But all she really did was set me free. And honestly, that's the best ending I could have asked for.